prosperous genre of music on the Cameroonian skies. You don't have anything to lose, just hang on there and we'll start talking the serious things now, because over the past couple of weeks we've been tracking the evolution of the Roman Catholic Church in Cameroon, and much more recently we were explaining to you that the evolution of the Christian organization in Africa actually is hinged on two, what I would like to call papal prescriptions. One, the Ecclesia, which was promulgated in Yaoundé by the late Pope John Paul II, and the other, Africae Munus, which was launched in Benin by former Pope Benedict XVI. Now, is there a difference between the two documents? What sense should we be making out of them? In fact, considering the context we actually found ourselves in Cameroon. And that's why you're here, Martin. Welcome once again.
Thank you very much, Divine. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
A couple of people missed you on Monday and they kept on saying, oh, where did he go to? Is he coming back?
Oh, yes, I'm here. Monday. Yeah. Monday I went to Yaoundé. Right. And I don't know if you've gone to Yaoundé these days, but spend almost 3 hours down here in Yassa. It's a shame.
Yeah, you take 4 hours to get out and into Douala.
I mean, you know, coming in from Yaoundé or going to Yaoundé and coming back from Yaoundé, you know, you spend almost 3-4 hours on one spot down here in Yassa. I don't know what's happening. But it's a shame.
That's the eastern entrance into Cameroon's economic capital.
Yeah.
When you experience stuff like that, do you think Cameroon will be ready to stage the Africa Cup of Nations next year?
Well, I don't know what they have in mind, but you and I are just watching.
Okay.
But seeing that, you spend your time on the spot for 2 hours, 3 hours, you know, you get so infuriated, and people start telling you everything is going to be ready next year. You start wondering what measure are they using, you know. But we're all ordinary people watching and listening. So
listening to probably people like the Minister of Public Works, who was out there in Douala this week.
Right.
And he's saying that they're going to fast track those works, right?
We hear that all the time. I mean, you know, we heard that we were going to hold, that the African Cup of Nations was going to hold in Cameroon. There was assurance that that would be, but it never came to be.
And so it moved on to 2021. Let's keep our fingers crossed.
Let's hope so.
The Algerians are waiting for Cameroon to fail in its readiness, and so they can take it over like the Egyptians did. Anyways, let's come back to our discussion.
Yes.
What's the difference between Ecclesia and Africae Munus?
Ecclesia in Africa, as we said the last time, was what we call a post-synodal apostolic exhortation, which was promulgated, as you mentioned earlier, by Pope John Paul in Yaoundé in 1995.
Okay, yeah.
And before he died, he had even predicted holding a second assembly of the Synod of Bishops for Africa.
Yeah, I mean, those heavy documents come right after
They come after the Synod of Bishops, yes. Right. So he had predicted that. He didn't have the time to preside over the second Synod of Bishops for Africa, and that was done by Pope Benedict. He's today the Emeritus. And he was in Cameroon in 2009, November, I believe, and went from Cameroon to Benin, where he promulgated the second document called Africae Munus. It's actually, when you go through those documents, you see that one is just following immediately after the other one.
Okay.
Ecclesia in Africa had 5 themes. You know, you had evangelization, you had inculturation, then you had dialogue.
Between the religious organization.
Yes, the interreligious dialogue, as well as dialogue in the family, in small Christian communities, and you know, among people. And then you had justice and peace, and the means of social communication. There were 5 themes.
All right.
The Africae Munus, which means Africa's place with respect to justice and peace and reconciliation. Reconciliation, justice and peace.
Yeah.
And just 3 themes.
Okay.
But they are interrelated. They are linked to Ecclesia in Africa.
All right.
Because it's kind of expanding the themes that were developed in Ecclesia in Africa. Because when you had evangelization, it was the question of preaching.
It's a continuation, really.
Yes. So Africae Munus is actually the continuation. The themes are developed in greater detail. Justice, reconciliation, for example,
Yes.
you know, is looking at the church's role in promoting reconciliation in Africa.
All right.
Especially, you know, with all these wars and everything going on, what is the role of the church? Of course, many of those things depend on the political regimes and on the politicians.
Yeah,
but
when I was looking
the
at
church cannot
this,
be absent from that. You see.
I was looking at this last night,
Yeah.
you know, and I saw reconciliation, I saw justice and peace,
Yeah.
and I said this is speaking directly to Cameroon and Cameroonians at this point in time.
Exactly.
Is the Catholic Church failing in living up to the prescription?
Failing, I
in
don't
Africa
know,
and
because
Munus?
when you talk of reconciliation divine, you see what's going on now in the northwest and the southwest regions of our country. And when you see the role the bishops are playing, the church is playing, you know, they're not failing.
Okay.
The Bishop of Manfred the other day was talking about how he, despite the difficulties, he still visits his people. I saw the Bishop of Kumbo the other day, Bishop George Mho, carrying his bag on his head and going for his pastoral visit. You know, he cannot travel freely he cannot ride.
Some have actually been briefly taken hostage, like Cornelius Iswa, for example.
The Archbishop of Bamida was taken hostage the other day when he was coming from Womb. You know, they're promoting peace and justice and reconciliation in their own way.
But what would you tell, in their own ways, what would you tell those who think like me that these are isolated one-offs, that we need to hear a strong statement from a structure like the Episcopal Conference of Cameroon?
Yes, you know, many people say that, and sometimes you really need, you really believe that the bishops, especially for the level of the National Episcopal Conference, should be more vocal.
Yes.
Yes, but at the level of the provinces, you have the Ecclesia. You know, there are 5 ecclesiastical provinces in Cameroon. Yes, the ecclesiastical province of Bamenda,
Which stretches into the southwest region.
yes, of course, it's Boya, Kumba, Mamfe,
Kumbo.
Kumbu, Bamenda. Yes. So the bishops are very vocal.
Okay.
What else can you expect from them? when the crisis started, they sent out a document, you know, on a memorandum to say, hey, let's get together and see how this thing can end.
All right.
You see, but they were completely ignored, and they're preaching peace and reconciliation and justice, and these are the prerogatives of the political people,
All right.
of the politicians. But then the church is coming in to say the church cannot be absent because our people are the people suffering.
All right.
Yes, and the bishops of the ecclesiastical province of Bamenda, I can only speak for them. The others have their own reasons not to be vocal.
There have been rumors of
The
lack of
bishops of the-
solidarity
Yes, of
between the French-speaking and English-speaking bishops in Cameroon.
yes, I don't want to get into any controversies.
You
but
have to.
but because when you look at the bishops of the ecclesiastical province of Bamida, they're actually going out to meet their people. You know, Pope Francis says the priest, the bishop, should go to the sheep, to the flock.
Okay.
They should have the smell of the sheep on them. I like that expression
All
by
right.
Pope Francis.
Right.
Yeah, the true pastor must have the smell of the sheep on him. Meaning, if you don't go to your people, bind the wounded and carry them on your shoulder and bring them to safety, then you are not.
You're filling your role.
You're failing your duty, man. There's no way out.
Okay.
So the question of reconciliation, when you look at what's happening in our country today, you imagine what's going to be like, you know, when this is all over, you know, never had it been thought before that in our regions, in our villages, you have a brother giving up a brother to be killed,
Okay.
you know, showing where somebody is hiding so he will be killed and so on. Nobody could have thought of that.
Right.
But then these are things that come within the ambit of justice, peace and reconciliation, which Ecclesia in Africa and Africae Munus are talking about.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, I just realized as we speak that there's the first document is actually well known in Cameroon.
Right.
Looking at Ecclesia, but Munus remains known only to very few Cameroonians.
Exactly so. You know, if I'm speaking for the, especially for the Archdiocese of Douala, when Ecclesia in Africa was promulgated in Yaoundé in 1995, I think 1996, the then Archbishop of Douala, who's the Emeritus, Cardinal Toumé, convened.
Whose role has been prominent in struggling to find
yes, I think he did very well. He convened a kind of a diocesan synod to look at Ecclesia in Africa, the different themes.
Okay.
And those themes were then developed to be used at the local level. Okay. Because a document like this is very general, so it is left to the local ordinary, that's the bishop, to see how he can develop it in his own region,
okay.
In his own diocese. And that's what we did here in Douala in, I think, 1996 or 1997. I don't remember exactly when. And this became very well known because many people participated in that synod, and the resolutions were read out and sent to the different people. Okay. And then, you know, we talked the other day about Radio Veritas. Radio Veritas actually came out of that local synod. And so when something like that comes up, people know it better. Ecclesia in Africae Munus came out in 2009, and you know, there was no local synod to discuss it. Okay. So very few people know about it. Very few people have even heard about it. All right. You know, even among the clergy. You know, so it is. Yeah. You know, so if they had been when Africae Munus came, the cardinal was no longer in the driver's seat. Somebody else, Monsignor Cleda. No synod was called to look into Africae Munus. So it's left practically unknown, or very known just among very few people who are curious, like us, the journalists, for example.
Well, thank you for coming once again.
The pleasure is mine, Divine.
We'll be waiting to see you back on Monday.
Monday, yes, I'll be here. We'll talk about
the environment and the new Pope.
Yes, Pope Francis and the environment. Okay. He's very much into the environment. He's produced a document called Laudato Si. All right. Signore, praise be to you, Lord. And he talks about the environment, which he calls our common home. Okay. And asks the question, what are we doing with our common home? What will we leave to our children? Okay. So it is something worth discussing. Thanks sincerely for making it. My pleasure. All right, so see you on Monday next week. God willing, of course. So now, we said it together, all right? Everything depends on him. Now I'll take you over to something else. Let's rev up the pace, because Cameroon has once again claimed the global news headlines, because a group of women, actually they call themselves les Amazones de la Révolution, besieged the premises of Cameroon's embassy in Paris